When a judge denied a veteran the chance to say a final goodbye to the dog who had saved his life, the public was stunned. But few realized that in the quiet courtroom sat Caroline Leavitt, the White House press secretary, not just as an observer, but with a purpose. She was there to uncover a deeper network of misconduct behind the harsh decision. What started as a battle for a dog soon turned into a national pursuit of justice. Before we get into the story, comment where you're watching from, and make sure to subscribe so you don't miss future updates. The courtroom felt heavy with silence, the dim overhead lights casting long shadows across the filled seats. All attention was fixed on Ethan Brooks, a former Army sergeant now in a wheelchair. His old uniform, decorated with medals, caught the light. In his grip was the leash of Blitz, a German shepherd beside him, alert and watchful like a soldier on patrol. To Ethan, Blitz was far more than a service dog. He was the companion who helped him survive his darkest moments. Judge William Caldwell, seated high at the bench, surveyed the room with an unreadable stare. "Brooks," he began, his tone rigid and filled with official indifference. "The military has made its decision. The dog remains government property and will be reassigned. This is your last opportunity to speak." His words were cold, detached, as if Blitz's future were simply another formality. Ethan exhaled slowly, trying to steady his voice. "Sir, Blitz saved my life during a blast in Afghanistan. When I had nothing left, he was there. Please don't take him away." A low wave of murmurs passed through the room. Some people wiped their eyes, but Caldwell offered no reaction, raising his gavel. Suddenly, Blitz sprang to his feet, tugging the leash free from Ethan's grasp, barking sharply in the direction of a dim hallway. The loud barks cut through the silence like an alarm. The room froze. Chairs scraped the floor as a few people stood, startled. "Blitz!" Ethan called out, his voice cracking. But he recognized the signal. Blitz had only ever barked that way, when sensing a threat or danger in the field. "Your Honor, he's picking up on something. He senses a threat," Ethan called out, tightening his grip on his chair. Judge Caldwell's face tightened, his voice still level but uneasy. "Restrain that dog now, or I'll have him removed," he warned, eyes flicking nervously toward the hallway. Tension filled the room. Whispers spread quickly. Ethan's case had already gone viral on X thanks to a post by his sister Clara. It had drawn millions of views, with waves of outrage in the comments. The "Myers Save Blitz" surged, transforming Ethan into a public symbol of a veteran being denied fairness. Inside a brightly lit White House office, Caroline Leavitt studied the storm as it unfolded. Seated in front of a wall of screens, her focused gaze moved across countless alerts. The light reflected off her platinum blonde hair, but her expression showed concern. As the White House press secretary, she knew this story had quickly become much more than a legal dispute. Caroline Leavitt had built a reputation for composure under pressure, but the case of Ethan Brooks and his dog Blitz was turning into a public relations crisis. Clara's viral post on X had sparked a firestorm, with the Myers Save Blitz dominating online discussions. Millions expressed outrage that the military intended to take Blitz away, the dog who had saved Ethan's life and guided him through trauma. To many, it felt like a betrayal of a veteran, and the blame was landing squarely on the administration. The door opened and James Thornton, a senior advisor to the president, entered. He placed a folder on Caroline's desk. "Caroline, the president, wants you to take the lead," he said, voice urgent but steady. "The Ethan Brooks situation. The public thinks we're abandoning those who served. Travel to New Hampshire, attend the trial, report directly, and make sure this is resolved fairly." Leavitt nodded and began scanning the contents of the file. She understood immediately. This wasn't just about calming backlash. The president wanted to turn the situation into a demonstration of their support for veterans, a core element of the administration's America First platform. But one detail caught her eye. Judge William Caldwell's financial records showed unexplained transactions from Blackthorn Dynamics, a well-known defense contractor with a checkered history. Leavitt's brow furrowed. The same Judge Caldwell, described online as cold and dismissive, had labeled Blitz as military property, and disregarded Ethan's emotional appeal like it was just red tape. But those large sums of money, hundreds of thousands, were difficult to ignore. Her instincts told her something more was at play. This case wasn't simply about a dog anymore. It hinted at a deeper scandal, and as press secretary, she knew it was her job to investigate, for the administration's credibility and for justice. She had witnessed how powerful public opinion on X could be, and now she planned to use that momentum. Reaching for her phone, she dialed Rachel Harper, an investigative journalist who had previously looked into Blackthorn dynamics. "Rachel, I need everything you have on Blackthorn," Leavitt said, her tone clear and firm. "They're connected to Ethan Brooks's case, and I believe Caldwell is hiding something." On the other end, Harper's voice dropped. "Caroline, Blackthorn isn't just another contractor. They're involved in classified military research, biotech, projects. Some even involve military canines. I'll send you what I have, but watch your back." Leavitt ended the call, her resolve hardening. If Blackthorn was behind the attempt to take Blitz, and if Caldwell was accepting payments to protect their interests, then she would expose every link in the chain. Before leaving her office, she checked her inbox. A file from Harper had already come through. One name stood out: Project Sentinel, a secret program involving dogs like Blitz. Her heart pounded. Blitz wasn't just a loyal companion. He might be tied to something far bigger. She grabbed her coat, ready to head to New Hampshire. The trial ahead wouldn't just determine Blitz's fate. It would be a chance to bring the truth to light. Meanwhile, the courtroom was still buzzing from Blitz's earlier outburst. The German Shepherd stood firm beside Ethan, his fur tense, prepared for danger. The crowd, reporters, locals, and onlookers, whispered among themselves. Many were live streaming, with Hoyer's Save Blitz trending rapidly. Ethan, seated in his wheelchair, rested a steadying hand on Blitz's neck, feeling the dog's heartbeat. His eyes remained fixed on the dark corridor where Blitz had sensed something earlier. Judge Caldwell sat stiffly on the bench, gripping his gavel, his expression stern, but his eyes revealing unease. "Mr. Brooks, please continue," he ordered, his voice crisp and controlled, pushing to resume the proceedings. "This courtroom will not allow further interruptions." Still, his urgency hinted at discomfort, as though he wanted things concluded quickly. Ethan sat tall despite the chair, his grip on the leash firm. "Blitz isn't government property," he said, his voice shaky yet strong. "He's a hero who carried me through enemy fire in Afghanistan and gave me hope when I had none. I can't just let him go." Ethan's words hit hard. Some in the crowd clapped while reporters scribbled in a frenzy. A woman in the back shouted, "Save Blitz! Justice for veterans!" Before Judge Caldwell could respond, a figure emerged from the hallway. Heavy footsteps echoed on the wooden floor. A tall man in a black coat, hood pulled low, moved forward with unsettling calm. The room went silent. Security tensed, hands near their holsters. But the man raised his hand. His voice rang deep and even. "Relax," he said, his eyes scanning the room and stopping on Blitz. "I'm here for the dog. He doesn't belong to you, Brooks." Ethan's grip tightened on the leash. His voice shook with rage. "Who are you to say that?" he shouted. The crowd burst into noise, jeers rising louder than the gavel strikes. "Order!" Caldwell called, his voice growing sharp, panic creeping in as he looked nervously at the newcomer. "Identify yourself or the court will take enforcement." "Action," he demanded, though the force in his voice felt forced, as if he already knew who the man was. The hood came down, an angular face, cold eyes. "Marcus Kane, Blackthorn Dynamics," he said, voice level but threatening. "That dog is company property, valued at $10 million, trained for a project beyond your comprehension." The crowd erupted. Again. "Liar!" someone yelled. Cameras zoomed in. Ethan froze. $10 million? His mind went back to a mission in Afghanistan, when Blitz uncovered a secret biochemical weapons stockpile guarded by private forces. Blackthorn Dynamics, makers of advanced defense systems, holders of $15 billion in annual contracts. Were they behind this? Was Blitz connected to controlling global biochemical arms? "He's family, not property," Ethan yelled, his voice booming over the chaos. Blitz, picking up Ethan's energy, growled low and locked eyes on Kane. "Caldwell, now." Pale slammed his gavel. "Enough," he snapped, trying to regain control. "Remove this man," he ordered security. But Ethan noticed a flicker in Caldwell's glance, an almost invisible reaction when looking at Kane. Security closed in, but Kane didn't resist. "You're digging your own grave, Brooks," he said, icy calm. "That dog holds secrets worth an empire. You'll regret this." Then he turned and left, disappearing into the hall. The courtroom was in chaos. Reporters rushed to capture every detail. The crowd shouted, and on X, where Blitz passed 3 million shares in just a few hours. Ethan leaned down, hugging Blitz tightly. "They're not taking you, buddy," he whispered. But deep inside, he knew Kane wouldn't back down, and Blitz might be tied to something more dangerous than he'd ever expected. The atmosphere stayed tense. After Marcus Kane's dramatic exit, Ethan sat in silence, gently stroking Blitz's fur. The dog's breath was steady, warm. Judge Caldwell struggled to compose himself at the bench. His expression strained, though he tried to maintain control. "The court will proceed," he said firmly, gavel hitting hard. "Mr. Brooks, your final statement or I'll issue a ruling." But even as he spoke, his voice revealed cracks, as if Kane's appearance had shaken something loose. Ethan took a deep breath, ready to speak. But the courtroom door opened again. A woman entered, platinum hair shining under the harsh lights, walking with confidence. Every head turned. Caroline Leavitt, White House press secretary, stepped into the aisle, holding a thick file. Her eyes were sharp and focused, all attention locked onto her. Cameras swung in her direction. "Judge Caldwell," she said clearly, "I'm Caroline Leavitt. I represent the White House under presidential orders. I request an immediate suspension of this ruling." Her words hit like thunder. The room filled, with whispers and murmurs. Caldwell turned pale. He tightened his grip on the gavel, trying to maintain authority. "This is a court of law, Miss Leavitt," he said coldly. "The executive branch may not interfere with judicial procedures unless legal grounds are presented. You'll be asked to leave." His tone remained stiff, but there was a slight tremble. He could feel the weight of her presence. Leavitt gave a small, confident smile and stepped closer, raising the file. "I do have legal grounds," she said, her voice steely. "This file contains proof you received bribes from Blackthorn Dynamics, $1.2 to $2 million over 3 years, all tied to ensuring Blitz was turned over to them. This isn't a legal proceeding anymore. It's a cover-up." The courtroom exploded. Shouts drowned out the gavel. The sound of Caldwell's gavel cracked like thunder through the courtroom. "Lies!" he bellowed, face flushed with rage. "These accusations are baseless. You have no right to slander in my court." But the cracks were forming. His usual bureaucratic arrogance began to wither under the weight of the room's stairs. His eyes darted wildly, scanning the crowd for an escape route, as if running could erase the truth. But Caroline Leavitt wasn't backing down. She calmly opened the file, her voice unwavering. "Internal email from Blackthorn Dynamics," she began, her tone sharp and slicing. "Transfer $500,000 to Caldwell's offshore account to ensure Project Sentinel remains secure. Blitz must be retrieved at all costs." Then she looked up, her eyes locking with the judge's in a chilling stare. "Project Sentinel," she said, letting the words hang heavy in the silence. "A $2 billion biotech program using dogs like Blitz to detect biochemical weapons. This dog isn't just a pet. He's the centerpiece of a weapons empire. And you, Judge Caldwell, have sold justice to protect it." The room erupted. Ethan's heart thundered in his chest. He looked at Blitz. Memories flashing. Afghanistan, the buried cache of biochemical weapons. Blitz finding it before anyone else. Could a chip inside Blitz actually contain the encrypted data about that cache? His eyes turned to Leavitt, filled with disbelief and a sudden spark of hope. The crowd roared. X live streams exploded. Icro save Blitz and expose Caldwell surged like wildfire. A reporter yelled, "Leavitt's a hero!" Caldwell's control slipped further. He was trembling now, gavel clutched tightly like a lifeline. "You're undermining legal order," he shouted. But the once commanding tone had fractured. It was the sound of a man trapped. "Security! Remove her!" he screamed. But security hesitated. Their eyes flicked from Leavitt to the impassioned crowd, reading the tide. Leavitt moved toward Ethan, placing a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "Mr. Brooks," she said softly, "I saw Clara's post on X. Millions stand with you and Blitz. I'm here to make sure justice is served. For you, and for every veteran." Ethan's voice cracked with emotion. "Thank you," he whispered, stroking Blitz's head. Leavitt turned back to the bench. "I demand a federal investigation into you and Blackthorn dynamics," she declared, voice ringing across the courtroom. "The president has been informed. You can't hide forever." Applause erupted like a tidal wave. Cameras flashed. Caldwell's face turned ashen. He stood abruptly, gavel forgotten. "Court is adjourned," he mumbled, fleeing the bench. His steps were shaky, his mask of authority shattered. Reporters swarmed Leavitt, but she only looked at Ethan and Blitz with a determined smile. "We're not done, Mr. Brooks," she said. "Blackthorn won't give up, but neither will I." That night in a dim New Hampshire hotel room, Caroline Leavitt pored over a thick folder. The courtroom was quiet now, the trial on hold. But the storm was far from over. Clara Brooks's viral post had turned Blitz into a national symbol. More than a dog, he was a lightning rod for truth. Over 5 million shares and counting. Still, Leavitt knew Blackthorn wouldn't go down without fight. She picked up her phone and dialed. "Rachel, I need more on Project Sentinel," she said. Rachel Harper, the journalist who uncovered the internal Blackthorn files, answered, voice low. "I've got a new source," Harper replied. "John Kessler, former Blackthorn engineer. He knows about the chip and Blitz. Meet us at the cafe, on Main in an hour." Adrenaline surged through Leavitt's veins. She was digging into a $15 billion defense giant. Time was running out. At the cafe, warm light spilled onto the table, but the air was thick with tension. Harper sat beside a jittery middle-aged man. John Kessler gripped his coffee tightly. "I left Blackthorn when they crossed the line," he said, voice trembling. "Project Sentinel isn't just training dogs. They implant biotech chips. Blitz's chip can detect biochemical weapons with 99.8% accuracy. But it's more than that. His chip holds encrypted data on a $4 billion biochemical weapons cache in the Middle East. Blackthorn sold it to international buyers. Now they want Blitz back to erase the evidence." Leavitt's pen flew across her notepad. "Why is Caldwell involved?" Kessler's eyes darted around before whispering. "He took bribes. Over $1.5 million in a Cayman's account. He guaranteed Blitz would be retrieved before the data could leak." Leavitt's heart pounded. Caldwell, so smug in court, wasn't just corrupt. He was complicit in global biochemical arms trafficking. "We need evidence," Leavitt said to Harper. "Documents, transactions, anything." Harper nodded, sliding over a USB. "These are bank records." "But Caroline, Blackthorn knows you're digging. They've hired Kane. He's not just a lawyer, he's a mercenary." Leavitt's expression didn't flinch, but her memory flashed back to Marcus Kane in court, his icy eyes, his veiled threats. This wasn't just a trial anymore. It was a war. Meanwhile, in a quiet suburban home, Ethan sat by Blitz. The glow of the TV flickered across his face as Clara scrolled through comments on X. Save Blitz still surged with energy, but Ethan's eyes were distant. He knew the truth now, and so did millions of others. And Blackthorn Dynamics, they weren't just after a dog, they were after silence. "Things are changing," Clara said with a hopeful tone. She had publicly accused Caldwell of corruption in court. Ethan nodded, gently stroking Blitz's ear. "But Blackthorn won't back down," he murmured, recalling Kane's cold stare. He explained to Clara how, during their mission in Afghanistan, Blitz had discovered a hidden stockpile of biochemical weapons. "Blitz knows something. Ethan said with steady resolve. And they're afraid it'll come out. Clara squeezed his hand. We'll fight this. Millions on X are supporting you. At the same time, Caroline Light stepped out of the cafe into the darkness, driving toward her hotel. As she navigated the narrow New Hampshire roads, her eyes flicked to the rearview mirror. A black SUV was following her. Her heart raced, but she remained composed. The SUV closed in, headlights glaring. Suddenly, a bullet shattered her rear window. Light ducked, hit the gas, and swerved into a side alley. The SUV stayed close, but she maneuvered through a parking lot and lost them. Shaken, she stopped behind a warehouse and checked her phone. A message from Harper read, "Kane was hired by Blackthorne. Be careful." Tension tightening in her chest, Light clenched her fist. She knew Blackthorne was getting desperate. She dialed White House advisor James Thornton. "James," she said urgently, "I have solid proof, Caldwell's offshore accounts, and data from Blitz's chip. Blackthorne is after me. I need protection and an emergency meeting with the president." Thornton agreed and promised to send a security team to New Hampshire. Light stared into the night. The danger was escalating. It wasn't just about Blitz anymore. They were trying to silence everyone aware of Project Sentinel. She thought of Ethan and Blitz. The image of the loyal dog beside the veteran made her smile faintly. "They picked the wrong fight," she whispered, starting the car with determination. At Ethan's home, a sudden knock made Blitz jump up, growling. Ethan grabbed a nearby cane, heart pounding. Clara opened the door and found an unmarked envelope. Inside was a note. "Hand over Blitz or you both die." Ethan stared at it, then looked at Blitz. "Never," he whispered, hugging the dog tightly. He called Light's number and left a message. "Miss Light, they've threatened us. We need help." In New Hampshire. Light received the message, her eyes narrowing with determination. Darkness surrounded the small New Hampshire home. The dim glow of the TV lit Ethan Brooks's anxious face. Blitz, the German shepherd, lay at his side, eyes alert. Ethan held the threatening note. Clara sat across from him, scrolling through. The Mockers Save Blitz had crossed 6 million shares. "Let's make Blackthorne nervous," Clara said, trying to sound positive. She had exposed Caldwell's $1.5 million bribery in court. "We've got momentum." Ethan didn't respond. He stared at Blitz, remembering Marcus Kane's words. "That dog knows too much." Ethan knew Blackthorne dynamics. With its $15 billion in defense contracts, wouldn't stop at anything to protect the secret. $4 billion in biochemical weapons hidden away. A sound on the porch made Blitz rise, ears perked, growling low. Ethan grabbed his wooden cane again, heart racing. "Clara, turn off the lights," he whispered, rolling to a corner. Clara complied, and the house went dark. Through the window, Ethan saw 3 silhouettes move, guns glinting in the moonlight. He recognized Marcus Kane in the lead, his icy gaze unforgettable from the trial. "They're here for Blitz," Ethan whispered, tightening his grip on the leash. Clara, shaking, quickly texted Light. "Our house is under attack. Please help." The front door burst open. Kane entered with 2 armed men. "Brooks," he said coldly, "hand over the dog." His tone was calm but razor-sharp. Blackthorne paid $10 million for that animal. The chip in its body holds data worth far more. Anger surged in Ethan as he recalled the biochemical weapons Blitz had discovered. The data held by John Kessler could destroy Blackthorne's entire network. "Blitz isn't going anywhere," Ethan growled, letting go of the leash. Blitz lunged like a missile, teeth bared, tackling the nearest attacker. A gunshot rang out, but Blitz was quicker. His teeth clamped down on the man's arm, making him scream. Ethan, fueled by muscle memory from his service days, swung his cane hard, smashing the second henchman's knee. Kane, unfazed, pulled a knife. "You're a fool, Brooks," he said, stepping toward Blitz. But Clara, from the corner, hurled a lamp, striking Kane on the shoulder. He stumbled. Blitz seized the moment, tackling him to the floor, jaws inches from his throat. "Call them off," Ethan shouted. Kane, pinned beneath Blitz, gave a nod. His men retreated. Outside, police sirens blared. Red and blue lights spilled through the windows. Neighbors had alerted the authorities. Kane, breathing heavily, glared up at Ethan. "This isn't over," he hissed. "Blackthorn will reclaim what's theirs." He broke free and fled with his men, disappearing into the night before the police arrived. Ethan hugged Blitz tightly. "You were incredible," he whispered. Clara. Shaking checked X. Thousands more comments poured in under the tag "NARS Save Blitz." Tears welled in her eyes as she grabbed Ethan's hand. "We did it," she said. "But they'll come again." Meanwhile, at her hotel, Caroline Light read Clara's message. Her chest tightened. She immediately called James Thornton. "James," she said, voice tense. "Ethan's house was attacked. Blackthorn's out of control. We've got Kessler's evidence. Blitz's chip holds the data on that $4 billion biochemical cache. We must protect Ethan and accelerate the Caldwell investigation." Thornton assured Leavitt that security would be dispatched to Ethan's home and that an emergency meeting with the president was in motion. Sitting at her desk, Leavitt inserted the USB Rachel Harper had sent, bank records that directly linked Caldwell to Blackthorn. One more offshore account had surfaced, listing $2 million under the name of a Blackthorn executive. The scope of the corruption was becoming undeniable. Leavitt thought of Caldwell, who had smugly called Blitz mere property in court, all while trying to deflect attention from the bribes. She realized Caldwell was nothing more than a pawn in Blackthorn's larger scheme, with Kane acting as the muscle. She messaged Harper, "Dig deeper on the executive. We're close." But just then, a new anonymous message appeared on her phone. "Stop digging or end up like Brooks." Jaw clenched and eyes burning with defiance, Leavitt knew the threat was real, but she'd been through intense media storms before. She was determined to protect Ethan, safeguard Blitz, and bring Blackthorn's empire to its knees. Meanwhile, back at Ethan's home, police documented the attack, though Kane had vanished without a trace. Holding Blitz tightly, Ethan turned to Clara. "Leavitt's our only hope," he murmured. "If she takes down Blackthorn, Blitz is safe." Clara nodded, posting on X. "Our home was attacked, but Ethan and Blitz remain strong. Thank you, Leavitt. Save Blitz." The post gained immediate traction, increasing pressure on Blackthorn. Ethan gently petted Blitz, comforted by the dog's loyal presence. The courtroom was alive with tension, buzzing with national media and live streams, pushing. Save Blitz passed 8 million shares and turned the trial into the country's top headline. Seated in his wheelchair, Ethan gripped Blitz's leash, the German shepherd calmly watching the crowd. Since the attack, Ethan had no illusions left. Blackthorn, with its $15 billion defense deals, would stop at nothing to retrieve the $10 million dog that carried a chip linked to a $4 billion biochemical weapons cache. Clara sat beside him, phone in hand, eyes scanning waves of support flooding X, people demanding justice, exposing Blackthorn, rallying behind Blitz. "Judge William." Caldwell entered, his posture stiff, gaze cold with bureaucratic detachment. Yet as he raised the gavel, his hands trembled, a subtle crack in his composure, following Leavitt's bribery accusation of $1.5 million. "Court is back in session," he declared, his voice sharp but missing its usual authority. "Mr. Brooks, your final statement." Ethan inhaled deeply, preparing to speak, but then the courtroom doors swung open. Caroline Leavitt strode in, platinum hair glinting, a thicker briefcase in hand. The room fell silent. Cameras tracked her every step. "Judge Caldwell," she said, her voice steady and firm, "I request a suspension of the ruling and an immediate transfer of this case to federal jurisdiction." Her words hit like a thunderclap, prompting loud applause. Caldwell banged his gavel, face flushed. "Ms. Leavitt, this is your second courtroom disruption," he snapped, trying to reclaim control. "This court does not take orders from the executive. Branch, if you don't have grounds, leave now." But his eyes betrayed panic, darting like a cornered animal. Leavitt offered a calm smile, lifting the briefcase. "Judge Caldwell, I have undeniable proof of your corruption. And Blackthorn's." She opened the case, revealing printed documents. Your offshore Cayman account received $1.8 million from Blackthorn over 4 years, $500,000 of which came just before this trial. She paused, locking eyes with him, internal emails from Charles Vernon, a Blackthorn executive, confirm you were paid to ensure Blitz was transferred to them, burying Project Sentinel, a $2.5 billion military biotech program. She drew a breath. Blitz carries data on a $4 billion biochemical weapons cache. That chip threatens Blackthorn's trafficking operations across borders. You sold justice to protect a criminal enterprise. Gasps and cheers erupted from the gallery. X live streams overflowed with messages. Caldwell's corrupt. Save Blitz. Visibly shaken, Caldwell slammed the gavel again. This is outrageous, he shouted, though his tone had lost all command. These documents are fake. You're slandering a federal judge. Sweat dripped from his brow. Unbothered, Leavitt retrieved a USB drive. This contains a statement from John Kessler, a former Blackthorn engineer, she announced. Kessler confirms the chip inside Blitz holds encrypted data detailing 12 biochemical weapons sites in the Middle East. Sold to foreign entities for $6 billion. You and Kane conspired to retrieve that data before it went public. Ethan stroked Blitz's fur, mind flashing back to the Afghanistan mission where the dog had discovered the weapons cache, and to the attack at home. Leavitt was exposing everything. He watched her, full of gratitude. The courtroom broke into applause. A reporter shouted, "Leavitt's a hero." Caldwell, now visibly trembling, tried to resist. "This court rejects these baseless allegations," he barked. "Security, remove her." But the officers hesitated, gauging the crowd's reaction. One leaned in and whispered, "The FBI is outside, sir." Leavitt stepped closer, voice low and cutting. "Judge, the evidence has been sent to the Justice Department and the President. A federal investigation is underway targeting both you and Blackthorn. You can't run from this." Clara remembered Caldwell's arrogant tone as he referred to Blitz as mere property, trying to cover up the $1.8 million in bribes, and Marcus Kane's reckless actions as Blackthorn's attack dog. Both of their schemes had failed, but Vernon was still on the loose. Clara quickly texted Rachel Harper, "Hunt Vernon, he's the final target." She then posted on X, "I'm saved Blitz stays alive and the FBI saved us." The post reached 3 million interactions in just minutes. As Ethan left the courthouse, the crowd cheered and cameras surrounded him. Leavitt approached and shook Ethan's hand, saying, "Mr. Brooks, this is the public's victory, but Vernon is still out there. Stay vigilant." Ethan nodded, his eyes steady, as Blitz sat by his side. "We survived a war. We'll get through Blackthorn," Ethan whispered. Blitz lifted his head as if agreeing, and Leavitt laughed. Later, as the golden sunset bathed the New Hampshire fields, Ethan sat on his porch, stroking Blitz's fur. The German shepherd lying beside him wagged his tail gently, sensing the rare peace. Judge Sarah Mitchell's ruling that Blitz belonged to Ethan had ended the painful battle. The Sackers Save Blitz, sparked by Clara's post, quickly reached 12 million shares, turning Ethan and Blitz's story into a global symbol of veteran justice. Ethan whispered to Blitz, "You saved me, not just in Afghanistan, but here." He remembered the $4 billion biochemical weapons cache Blitz had uncovered, and the $10 million chip in his body, which made Blackthorn target them. Inside, Clara prepared dinner, eyes glowing as she scrolled through X. "Ethan, look at this," she called, holding up her phone. "They're calling you and Blitz the unbreakable duo. People are donating to veterans because of you." Ethan smiled, feeling lighter than he had in years. The arrests of William Caldwell, who had taken $1.8 million in bribes, and Marcus Kane, the ruthless mercenary, were victories for not just him, but for millions on X. However, he knew the greatest credit went to Caroline Leavitt, White House press secretary, who had exposed Blackthorn's $6 billion corruption network and $2.5 billion Project Sentinel. In her White House office, Leavitt sat under dim light, reviewing the case with James Thornton, the president's advisor. "The president commends you, Caroline," he said quietly. "You didn't just save Blitz, you exposed Blackthorn. The FBI is hunting for Charles Vernon." Leavitt nodded, opening her laptop to read a message from Rachel Harper. "Vernon's hiding in Europe, but I have a lead. I'll update soon." She smiled, recalling Caldwell's arrogant tone in court when he called Blitz property to hide his crimes. Caldwell was facing prison, but Vernon and Blackthorn's remnants remained a threat. She replied to Harper, "Fine, Vernon, we're not done." Scrolling through X, Leavitt saw thousands of veterans thanking her. One message read, "Save Blitz inspired me to fight PTSD. Thank you, Leavitt." Her heart warmed, but the responsibility of continuing the investigation weighed heavily. She drafted a report for the president, vowing to keep fighting for the Blackthorn investigation and ensuring no veteran was left behind, just like Ethan had almost been. She thought of Ethan and Blitz, the image of the dog by his side in the field making her smile. "Justice started with them," she whispered, standing ready for the next fight. Meanwhile, Ethan rose from the porch, leaning on his cane as he walked slowly beside Blitz. Over the past few months, he had started therapy, regaining mental strength thanks to Blitz and the support from X. He turned to Clara, his voice low but firm. "I want to do something for veterans, Clara. A project, a therapy dog training center like Blitz helped me." Clara nodded, her eyes shining. "Brilliant idea. I'll start a fund on X. People will back it." Ethan knelt down, looking into Blitz's eyes. "You'll be the star, buddy," he said with a soft smile. Blitz wagged his tail as if agreeing. A week later, Ethan received a video from Leavitt, sent via Clara. In the video, Leavitt stood before the White House seal. "Mr. Brooks, you and Blitz are an inspiration to the nation. Your therapy dog project will change veterans' lives. The White House supports you." Ethan watched, tears silently falling. He reposted it on X, adding, "Thank you, Leavitt, and all of you. Blitz and I will keep fighting for veterans." The post reached 5 million interactions, with thousands pledging donations for the center. As the sun set, Ethan and Blitz walked into the field, the grass rustling underfoot. Ethan paused, gazing at the horizon, remembering the dark days after Afghanistan when only Blitz had pulled him through. "You're my light," he whispered, stroking the dog's head. Blitz looked up, licking his hand, as if assuring Ethan they'd always be together. In the distance, Clara snapped a photo, posting it on X with the caption, "Ethan and Blitz, forever a team. Save Blitz." The image spread, becoming a symbol of loyalty and hope. The story of Ethan Brooks, Blitz, and Caroline Leavitt in their fight against Blackthorn dynamics reflects real issues in America today. Veterans' struggles, the power of social media, and the fight for justice in a complex system. Ethan, a veteran whose military system tried to strip him of Blitz, and the dog who saved him in war and through darker days, represents thousands of American veterans facing institutional neglect. His journey, amplified by Clara's courage Save Blitz, reaches 12 million shares on X, demonstrating the power of online communities in elevating individual voices, just like movements such as Me Too and Black Lives Matter reshaped societal awareness. Leavitt, as White House press secretary, exposed Judge Caldwell's $1.8 million bribes and Blackthorn's $6 billion biochemical weapons trafficking network, highlighting the need for transparency and accountability in American politics. Ethan's therapy, dog project raising $1 million, underscores the core values of American culture, community spirit, and social responsibility. The lesson is clear. Persist in fighting for what's right and leverage collective strength. Ethan didn't give up on Blitz despite facing Blackthorn, and Clara turned his story into a movement through X. In real life, you can use social media to rally support for causes like veterans' rights or anti-corruption, just as Leavitt did with the community to take down Caldwell. Small actions, like posting or donating, can create a ripple effect, just like Save Blitz. Trust in loyalty, in Ethan and Blitz's bond, and in the power of community. Even in an unjust system, unity and determination can bring hope and change. Subscribe to the channel to follow Ethan, Blitz, and Leavitt's justice journey against Blackthorn. Thank you for supporting Jar Save Blitz, and we'll see you in the next video.